Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins. Tom Holland is back. Took a week off. First week off in like 100 weeks. And we're excited to have Tom back. Chris also here behind the scenes producing for us. And I'm Dave Holcomb. So it's the final week of the preseason, but, that's not what's on everybody's mind. What's on everybody's mind, Tom, is how the 1-year-old's birthday party went last week.
Well, it should be on everyone's mind. It was great. It was great to see family. It was fun. My niece, Lyra, turned 1 year old. Daughter of my nephew and niece-in-law, I think is how you would call it. But beautiful baby.
But what is she to you? What is niece's daughter or nephew's daughter? Is that the term, or is there
my nephew's daughter? So I don't know what the exact term is.
Okay.
If any of our listeners want to chime in on that one, there's all kinds. We're dealing with all kinds of stuff here today. But it's the daughter of my nephew. So, and she is a beauty. She's going to be, he's going to have to keep his eye out for all the men when she gets older and so, but it was a lot of fun. As I say, we haven't gotten together as a family for a long time, since even prior to COVID and even a year or so prior to that. So it was to see everyone in one spot and talk to everyone, see how everybody was doing. And that was kind of the real advantage of going to the party. Of course, it was fun, cake and plenty of pasta, sausage, Italian beef. This is Chicago. We do stuff right.
No ketchup on hot dogs, though.
No ketchup on hot dogs. You don't do ketchup on hot dogs.
Always ketchup on hot dogs, Tom.
No,
Heinz ketchup. No Heinz ketchup.
No.
It's still Heinz Field.
I don't care. Yeah, it's still Heinz Field. I agree with you there. Okay. I don't care what kind of ketchup it is. I don't care what. You don't do ketchup on hot dogs.
We'll agree to disagree.
A lot of other. No, we won't agree to disagree. You're wrong.
Oh, okay. I think you're the only person I know who doesn't like ketchup on hot dogs. But
really,
you're also the only person I know in Chicago. So that's probably a skewed statistic.
There you go.
The people that I know, the 10 people I talk to, very small sample. I love it when people say that. Well, I don't know anybody who has this opinion. Like 10 people of the millions of people in the United States.
Right.
But I just used it myself with ketchup and hot dogs.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
In these days of social media, you can actually do that. No.
That's true. You do know you might have a bigger sample with social media. That's true.
I mean, I've known you for a long time, but I've only actually met you in person once.
It's true.
So you look at it that way, that's pretty much the way it goes.
I still think in social media, though, it's also dangerous because people look at social media, they read 3 comments, and then they say, everyone has this opinion if the 3 people have the same opinion.
That's true. Right.
So.
Right. Well, if it's not my opinion, then no, nobody has the right opinion.
Yeah.
That's how social media works.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the new thing with social media.
Right.
Well, we're glad you had a great week off and had a fantastic party. We were thinking about you while I was doing the show last week with Chris. And, we're looking forward to today's show. A lot to get to, so I guess we should move on to some football. The Falcons have some important roster spots to determine. Played last Monday night against the New York Jets. Looks pretty good in that game. And they will have the preseason finale today at 3:00 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, it's funny. This is a personal story, but I keep seeing the same teams keep propping up on the preseason schedule of the teams that I follow, which is just kind of weird. I'm going to end up watching 3 Detroit Lions preseason games because the opponents the Lions play against were the Falcons, the Colts, and then the Steelers. The three teams that I'm following this preseason. So
Right.
And then the Jaguars played the Steelers last week. I thought the Jaguars looked pretty good. Trevor Lawrence completed 2/3 of his passes. Looked pretty good there. Didn't convert in the red zone, but was moving the ball pretty readily against the Steelers defense. And we'll see that that offense against the Falcons today.
Well, Trevor Lawrence actually has a real NFL coach this year.
That's true.
It makes a big difference. He's not scraping by trying to figure things out for himself. He's actually got Peterson there, who's well, so I don't know if we call him a quarterback whisperer, but a guy who knows how to work with quarterbacks, offensive-minded coach, and somebody who can actually teach Lawrence some of the things he needs to know as he develops in the league.
So we'll preview a little bit of that game, talk about the roster spots that or the players that we're watching in that game for the last few available roster spots. There also are quite a few just national stories around the league that I would like to talk about today, if we can get to them. The big one is Aaron Donald. And the fight that happened between the Rams and Bengals, the joint practice between those two teams. First of all, who decided it was a good idea to have a joint practice between the two Super Bowl participants? I'll rant about that a little bit more later. What a horrible idea that was. I get that, that maybe that was I haven't looked at their preseason schedules. Was that the only, out of conference matchup they had on their preseason schedule that they wanted to do that? Because you always have a joint practices against teams you don't play a lot. So, the Colts had joint practices with the Lions. The Falcons did it with the Jets. You do it with somebody else that you're not going to see this season and a team that is in the other conference.
But normally it's a team that you're about to play. In
the preseason.
Yeah.
Right. So it's got to be a team that you play in the preseason and a team that you're not going to play in the regular season and is in the other conference. Well,
I don't know about that second part of it. All I know is that a lot of it is you're seeing that team this weekend in the preseason, and I've seen a lot of teams scheduling joint practices against each other before their preseason game. So I don't even think it matters as far as conference or that kind of thing. It's just a matter of who are we going to, we see these guys, we're going to play a game against these guys. Let's go ahead and do a joint practice. It's, we're not flying around. We're not traveling. We're in the same spot. Let's go ahead and do that.
Well, have you seen joint practices between two teams in the same conference?
If you press me on it, I could probably look back and find it.
This season?
Yeah.
Because I'm not following every joint practice, admittedly, but the teams the joint practices I've seen, it's between non-conference opponents. The point stands that I think the Rams and Bengals, thought that, okay, we can do a joint practice before our preseason game, and I think it was because they'd rather do it against a non-conference team. But that still didn't make it a good idea for the Rams and Bengals to have a joint practice against each other. And it led to a big fight. It led to a huge fight. And there should be consequences for some of those players that were involved in that fight. And we're going to get to that a little bit later. We'll also talk about Tom Brady a little bit more. I talked about him a lot last week, but I want to hear just kind of what you think, Tom, since you weren't here last week. He also returned. So there is an update there on that story. Yeah. And, there's not a whole lot to discuss with this yet, but I do kind of consider this show a news show to some extent. If you're tuning into us, we want to give you the big headlines. And one of the big headlines around the NFL the last couple of days is Bills rookie punter Matt Araiza, tell me if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, is accused in a civil lawsuit of participating in a gang rape of a minor. So a really horrible story to hear about a rookie player the Bills just cut their other punter, Matt.
Right.
And the day after he got cut, he got picked up by the Colts, who had an injury at punter this week. And then basically a day after Hawk was claimed by the Colts, this story came out. And he's going to be traveling with the team today for their preseason finale. But this is a story to monitor. Look, I'm not a lawyer, and it's just an accusation right now. But even if it's going to be really tricky for him to prove his innocence, because even if he says it was consensual sex, the woman was 17 years old.
She was a minor. Yes. By law in California, she was a minor. And yeah, we got to go into that a little bit deeper, because he has admitted having sex with her, and it is on tape. Now, he tried to pull that back, but there is tape where he admits to having sex with her. So there's a problem there. It's a messy situation. And we've talked about sexual assault with football players before, with celebrities. And it's not an easy thing to prosecute for. It's not an easy thing to prosecute in criminal courts, because there is a very high bar of proof that you have to clear. And sometimes it's not easy to understand where, or being able to point the finger at particular people. I mean, apparently she's alleging that she was drugged. She's alleging that she, after Areza finished with her outside, he took her inside, put her on the bed face down. She didn't know who was behind her. She didn't know who was raping her. So again, it's a high bar to clear. It's tough for a prosecutor to want to move forward with that case, and sometimes civil suits are the only way you can get justice in this kind of thing.
So we'll, I think, bring that up again a little bit later in the show, share any other thoughts that we might have, or comments that might come in on that topic. But you want to get to the Falcons first, talk about who you're watching today for those final roster spots?
Yeah, I mean, we got it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do. Oops, I got one of those autoplay videos on my. I hate that. I'm interested to see if what they do with Dion Jones, because he has just now come back to practice and really hasn't practiced with the team, has been on the bubble, according to most reports, for most of this preseason anyway. A lot of people, he was not graded well, Pro Football Focus last year at the linebacker spot. He had a very low grade. So there's a lot of people who really don't have a lot of faith in Dion Jones being able to come back, but he hasn't really had a chance to show anything this year. He's on the final year of his contract, and I would like to see what he's going to do today, or in his final. I think he's going to play tonight or this afternoon in the final exhibition game, and let's see what he can do. And it's tough to do, though, in a final preseason game. What do the Falcons do with him? It's almost like you can't cut him, because it's just, it would be ridiculous. It would call for dead cap money than it would, keep him on. I say let him play this. Let's see what he can do now that he's healthy. But I want to see the quality of his play today and how long he plays.
Before we continue, I want to mention that today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app in your app store and use our promo code ASU right there on the screen. Thank you, Chris. And you get a 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. So free money. Get that app downloaded this week. 3 weeks until the regular season. So you are, I guess, less than 3 weeks, right? Is it 2 weeks?
About 2 weeks, week and a half. We got that first game coming up.
2 weeks. 2 weeks until we're talking week 1 and telling you our picks in prize picks. And you don't have to wait 2 weeks. You can download the app today. Maybe place some entries on some baseball, but make sure you're all signed in, got your password set up, and your 100% match on your first deposit ready for the NFL season that starts in 2 weeks.
Yeah, get it taken care of now. I mean, what are you waiting for? We got real football is coming up soon. Before you know it, it's going to be here. So, yeah, get yourself signed up, get yourself all set with prize picks, and, you're part of a fantasy football league. Well, this is all the frustration of a fantasy football league. It'll be that same kind of fun.
Right. Yeah. If you're frustrated with your fantasy team, you can turn the page and be frustrated with prize picks.
Right. Exactly.
So for me, a lot of our conversations during the offseason of the Falcons are what they're doing at wide receiver and how Drake London is progressing and things of that nature. So I'm looking at the wide receivers today. And I know Drake, I'm not even looking at the starters. Drake London, Bryan Edwards, Olamide Zaccheaus, they've locked down roster spots.
Yeah.
I want to see who the last two guys end up being. Could it be Frank Darby? Could it be Jared Benhart? And they have a couple other guys, Keyshawn Johnson, just fun name to say because he's shares the same name with a former great receiver in the NFL. So I'm curious to see how that position breaks down, and I think it's kind of still undecided at this point. So today will be a big day for some of these receivers.
Oh yeah, it's going to be make or break for a lot of these guys. Interesting thing, I looked at AtlantaFalcons.com, the web team's website, and according to their depth chart they released prior to this game, Daryl Hodge is considered a starter. So
okay, I did not see. I'm going to pull that up right now. Of course, it's unofficial, but
unofficial. But he is lined up as in the starting spot on the Falcons depth chart going into today's game.
Pulling that up, I got it right now. Yeah, Khalil Hodge, number 1 wide receiver. He's the very first guy listed on the depth chart.
Right.
Damian Bird is second. Drake London is third. I would imagine that's not going to how it is. That won't be how it is in the regular season.
No.
But, and then at the other wide receiver position, Olamide Zaccheaus is the starter with Bryan Edwards second and Frank Darby third.
Yeah.
And then Jared Benhart, the guy I brought up, is all the way listed at 6th. But from what I've read, he has a chance to make the roster. And you can't go 100% by the depth chart, as we've been joking that it's London is pretty deeply buried there. But do they end up keeping 6 receivers? I mean, that's possible if they want to kind of hedge their bets on some of these guys. But I still think it's a big day for them to earn their roster spot. Some of these receivers. Hodge included, even though he's listed as the starter today.
Yeah, I think Hodge has to show something today. I don't think he can, and I think he knows he can't, rest on his laurels from the first 2 games. He's got to come out and have another big game to make this spot. I'm fairly certain with Bryan Edwards, we're going to be okay. Frank Darby, Batson, Berryhill, and Bernhardt are going to be fighting it out. Damian Bird, where did all the B's come from on these wide receivers for the Batson, Berryhill, Bernhardt, and Bird? So we got to see which of these B's make the final team, make that final cut.
And the Killer Bees? The Falcons have the Killer Bees now?
Yeah, Why not? But it's interesting to see. Of course, I think Kyle Pitts and Anthony Ferguson are going to be tight ends to make the squad. I just, I think Ferguson, I think Smith likes him from Tennessee, brought him in from Tennessee, and he was kind of one of Smith's favorites there as far as tight end receiver. So Felipe Franks is going to be interesting. Is Felipe Franks going to make the squad? I see him as a practice squad player if he does come back. He's not going to make the main roster.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't think he should either, but I'm not convinced that Arthur Smith feels that way. That Arthur Smith has really been trying to get Felipe Franks to fit on this team, and if he can convince the staff that, hey, he can play tight end and be our emergency quarterback, I don't know. That is an interesting storyline there that will follow. Todd asks, one of our watchers here today, what is London's injury? And it was reported by ESPN's Michael Rothstein on Thursday that he did not practice in the early portion on Thursday. He'd been sidelined with a knee injury since the first preseason game. So there really is no update, Todd, on what the injury is. We knew it was something to his knee, and not really sure, other than the fact that Smith has said it's not a long-term thing. Doesn't mean that he will be ready for week 1 of the regular season, unfortunately, either. So how much of that will play a role in the decisions that the Falcons make at wide receiver?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because London, they keep saying it's not a long-term thing, but it's turned into a long-term thing. So it's hard to say what exactly is. They haven't been very clear about what the knee injury is. So the only thing we know is he hasn't practiced. Right. So, how that affects the final roster, it's going to be interesting. So hopefully, we get better word on it as we get closer to the Falcons' final cutdown. I think they have to be down to 53 by Tuesday. So
that's correct, yeah.
Okay. I was right about something today. There we go.
Certainly not right about ketchup on hot dogs, I'll tell you that.
Oh, no, that I am right about.
Oh, okay. Shouldn't have brought that back up.
You come down to Chicago, and I'll take you down to the Wiener Circle, and we see how well you do trying to order ketchup on a hot dog.
I got one at Wrigley Field just fine.
Yeah, it's Wrigley Field. I'm talking about a true Chicago hot dog.
I thought you were about to say Wrigley Field isn't a true Chicago place. What are you talking about?
No, we can take you to a true Chicago hot dog stand.
Okay.
And we'll see, and probably the best one of those is the Wiener Circle. And we'll see how well you do trying to order ketchup on a hot dog there.
Todd, William, you guys have been commenting. Back me up here. What do you put on your hot dogs? It's got to be ketchup, right? I don't put just ketchup on it. That's where I started, very basic, all ketchup. But I like some spicy mustard. Occasionally put some onions on there. But ketchup is a must. Oh, Thea Dia, new commenter, I think, says no ketchup. She's on Tom's side.
Yep, she's already one of my favorites here today. Yep.
Todd says yes, it's a must.
No.
Ketchup is a must.
Todd.
So we got a score 1 for each side.
Yeah.
But William wants to hear
ketchup, onion, pickle, a little jardiniere, and hot peppers if you like that thing. So
I like the peppers. Peppers, yes. But getting back to the Falcons, William wants to know what we think about Marlon Davis.
I'm not ready to get back to the Falcons yet. Keep acting like you're some expert on hot dogs, and I'm just No, I'm kidding. Let's get back to the Falcons. You're right.
Well, Larry Orange says ketchup with cheese.
Oh my God, Larry. Oh, Larry. Oh, Larry, you're killing me here. Killing me, Smalls.
I think I've had hot dogs with cheese. I've had hot dogs just with ketchup, and I don't know if I've ever had it with ketchup and cheese. That would be an interesting combo
No, it wouldn't.
that I guess Larry recommends.
You can have cheese on your hot dog, but you cannot have ketchup. Yes, Marlon Davidson.
Mayo on the hot
dog. That's not American. I'm with you, Thea. You and I can keep fighting this battle today.
So you're ready to say are you as passionate about the non-hot dog, the no ketchup on hot dogs, Tom, as you are about say Marlon Davidson shouldn't make the roster? That's what William believes.
Yeah, I agree with William. I think he's going to get cut. I don't think we've seen any improvement out of him. This is just he's a bust. He's not worth keeping around. Right now, you're trying to build something here. You're trying to build a framework for the defense, that the next defense that's going to get you in the playoffs. And Marlon Davidson is not part of that defense. Who is going to get you into the playoffs next time you appear there? That's who you're looking for. That's the guys you are looking for today. Who is going to be on my team the next time we go out, next time we make the playoffs? He's not it. So.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you guys. I think he's going to get cut. Can't even prove himself today because he's injured, and that's one of the problems that he's had the last couple of years. The first few years in the NFL is he's banged up a lot. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a goner on Tuesday.
Yeah, so do I. Unfortunate. You hate seeing that kind of thing happen, but and he had a decent preseason last year, but he couldn't carry it over. He couldn't carry it into the regular season. So, that you kind of look at that too. This isn't somebody who was able to sustain once the games turned real.
And I mean, just another example of, you want to have your players playing well in the preseason, but doesn't mean that they're going to be playing well when the games start to matter. And just because somebody's not playing well right now doesn't mean that they won't be playing well in September and October, right, and then later on in the season.
Yeah, that's true. So, but, he's one who I definitely say, I don't think, he can't even save himself. He's going to be on the chopping block. So, any other positions you're looking at? Frank Darby, William Amy says is on the sideline, is on the bubble. I think definitely is on the bubble. And we'll see if he's got a lot of competition to beat out. There's going to be, one mistake today is going to put you on the outside looking in. If you can't get the toes down on a sideline catch, if you drop a catch, drop a ball, any kind of mistake is going to see you really hurting. It could put you off the roster. I'm also what's that?
I was just going to say, William bringing up Frank Darby, the receiver that I mentioned, Todd bringing up Dion Jones, the guy he's watching. You already talked about him. I think the last guy I want to mention as somebody that today is important for, Quadri Allison.
Yes, I was hoping you'd bring up the running backs. Yeah,
because, obviously Cordero Patterson is going to be on the roster. Tyler, haven't learned his last name yet.
Algier,
as a rookie, performed pretty well. Might be the number 3 guy behind Damian Williams, but Algier is going to be on the roster. Damian Williams is going to be on the roster. So really the question is, do the Falcons keep a 4th running back? And, Quadri Allison probably is going to be that guy, but they don't have to keep a 4th running back if they don't want to. he's going to have to earn the spot over somebody else in a different position.
Tell you the truth, I'm not impressed with Damian Williams. I don't think he's the guy that everybody. I don't know what everybody else is seeing that I'm not seeing. He was in Chicago last year with the Bears, couldn't stay healthy, and could not beat out Khalil Herbert for the backup running back spot. This is a guy I think he's trading on a lot of his reputation from being with the Chiefs. I don't know why he would be on this final roster, except that, again, he's got that time with the Chiefs, and everybody seems to think he's a prize that the Falcons picked up this offseason. I don't see it. I would love to be proved wrong, but I don't see it. So I think Quadri Allison makes it. He should make it.
Allison should make it instead of Williams, or just all four make the roster?
Well, all four make the roster and let Williams play his way off the roster.
Okay.
Because it appears Williams is going to make the roster, apparently. Again, I don't see it. I don't know why. He hasn't done anything spectacular in my eyes. Didn't do anything spectacular in my eyes last year. And I think you need a runner like Quadri Allison, who is young and I think has really improved, man. He runs with a purpose when he's out there. He runs hard. He keeps the legs grinding, knows how to change directions when he needs to, great vision. I like him. I want to see him stay out there. So I think if Allison gets cut, he's going to get picked up by somebody else. He is not going to be around to make the practice squad this year.
I agree with that. Yeah. So it's that, and that'll play a role in the decision too. If there's a borderline roster guy that you want, and you think he won't get through waivers and be placed on the practice squad, then you are more likely to try and keep him.
Yeah. So I don't think he makes the practice squad. Falcons are going to have to make a tough decision there. Todd asked, who do you want to see step up today? Want to see a pass rush from
Tom? It looks like Tom froze.
Is he?
Tom, you still with us?
Who? Yeah, my network went out real quick.
Okay.
So I am back.
What's your reaction to wanting to see that pass rush today from the rookie from Penn State?
I always want to see a pass rush. All right.
Good point.
Considering what the Falcons have been the last 2 years, last 2 seasons, the way they played, been one of the worst pass rush in the NFL. Yeah, I want to see what Ikebite, I think is the way you pronounce it, Ikebite, and Malone. I want to see them play deep into the game and see how well they look against the Jaguars' offensive line. So I agree. I want to see a lot of them, and I want to see them step up. And if they don't, I'm going to start worrying going into next week or going into game 1.
Yeah. Well, keep your Falcons comments coming in. We might be able to get to a couple of more, but there are some other topics we want to get to around the NFL in this last half hour of the show. So we're going to move on to some other things, but of course we can return to a Falcons question or a comment if something noteworthy comes across from us to us. So feel free to keep sending us in your thoughts in those comments on the Falcons and really anything else NFL related.
Yeah, I agree. You guys have been giving us great questions so far. Let's keep keep it up, and we'll come back to the Bucks, to Falcons if we need to.
So let's go to Aaron Donald first. I think that's probably the big story of the week. So I teased it at the top of the show that it was an awful idea to have joint practice between the two Super Bowl participants, and I mean, I don't think that's just a hindsight take that it's easy to say now because it was a big fight. I think you could have seen this coming. Two teams that there's a lot of sore feelings for the Bengals side, and if there was any trash talking at all about winning that game from the Rams players, there was going to be some animosity there, and there was a lot of animosity, and it ended with Aaron Donald ripping a player's from the Bengals helmet off and swinging the helmet using it as a weapon, like Myles Garrett did a couple years ago on Thursday Night Football against Mason Rudolph and the Steelers. So, and that ended with an indefinite suspension for Myles Garrett. I think it was reduced to 6 games, so we ended up only missing 6 games. It's a big suspension, but indefinite to down to 6. But right now, the big discussion is, can the NFL or should the NFL do anything as punishment to Aaron Donald? And what's being reported a lot from Mike Florio has been covering this story a lot for Pro Football Talk. There's too many Pro Football, and then get them confused.
They really are.
And he's basically said that the NFL doesn't have jurisdiction over what happens in practices. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. That they can have jurisdiction over what players do on the field, obviously, but then they have jurisdiction over what they do in their personal lives. They try to, at least. I know there's some, negotiating that is done with, the Watson suspension was negotiated. Other, now we have individual, partial judges that are ruling on suspensions now in the league. But the fact of the matter is the league does, when somebody gets in trouble with the law outside of football. That is not really a normal thing that's done in America by an employer. But the NFL has taken that responsibility, and I'm not here to say that they shouldn't. But the fact is they've taken that responsibility. Shouldn't that responsibility also apply to the practice field?
I don't see why it shouldn't, especially if you're running a joint practice. I mean, if this is happening, your Rams offense against Rams defense, and things get a little rambunctious and out of line, then it's a Rams problem. But this is a joint practice. You're going up against another NFL team, that supposedly is going into this thinking that there's going to be certain rules. We're going to be keeping a tight rein on these guys. We're just looking to get work in. And obviously more came into this than trying to get work in. And was there trash talking? Is water wet? Yes. Yeah. Definitely trash talking. Was Aaron Donald trash talking? Yeah, I would say probably. But still, it doesn't give you the right to tear the helmet off of another player and start swinging it around.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. The Rams should step up and impose punishment on Donald for taking it, way too far. And I'm not a big fan of training camp fights anyway. I think all they do is interfere with the pace of the camp. They get in the way of what the coaches are trying to accomplish. They take the attention away from what you're supposed to be concentrating on, which is getting ready for the season. But I'm with you also. Whoever on the Rams and Bengals decided that this would be a good idea, I don't see where that came from, and I don't know who pushed for this. But yeah, I mean, it comes up under the personal conduct policy, I would think, that you would be able to step in, and if the Rams don't do it themselves, it would be up to the NFL to step in and mete out punishment for what happened, because you cannot let that go unpunished. It's ridiculous. You're using the helmet like a weapon.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, you could literally kill somebody. You
Yeah.
really could. I mean, Aaron Donald is one of the strongest men in America, not just the league.
Yeah.
And he swung the helmet at somebody who was wearing a helmet, thank goodness. It wasn't a situation where Myles Garrett was swinging Mason Rudolph's helmet at him when he didn't have the helmet anymore on, which could have killed him too. But yeah, I think it's, if you do that away from the field, away from practice, I mean, it's assault. So, and then the NFL does step in, and you're probably suspended for violating personal conduct policy.
Right.
To be clear, Mike Florio does say in his most recent article about this that in all likelihood, if the NFL tried to do some kind of discipline for Aaron Donald, they would get big pushback from the NFLPA, and they would probably lose. That there isn't anything in the CBA currently that allows the NFL to impose any type of punishment for something that happens in practice.
Right.
It is completely team enforced, anything that happens in practice, regardless of if it's a joint practice or not. The argument I'm trying to make is the NFL should have jurisdiction, at least if it's a joint practice. They should have jurisdiction. And I think that's something that the league and Players Association are going to have to discuss in the next CBA. This is a topic that usually when changes come to the CBA, or even changes to the rules in the game, they happen because there's a situation that arises that's never happened before. This is that situation that we've never seen a joint practice end in such an ugly fight that could have ended with somebody getting really hurt. And I think this is going to cause a change in the CBA. Yeah,
I agree with you. This is definitely going to get discussed. There will be something in the next CBA concerning this. Guaranteed. You're right. It's something, now that it's come up, it will be discussed. I mean, there are different ways this can go too. Again, if the Rams don't do anything, the NFL can try and negotiate a punishment with the NFLPA, up front, outside of the strictures of the CBA. They could also, behind the scenes, lean on the Rams a little bit too. So,
that kind of leads to my last point I want to make on this topic. I wonder what the discussion would be, especially the reaction from the Rams or any other team and the NFL, if this wasn't a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
I am not someone that believes in conspiracies, but Myles Garrett, I don't really care for the guy, being a Steelers fan, but he was ridiculed, and I think he deserved it in somewhat, but he just got massacred on Twitter and the media for the helmet swing. Aaron Donald does the same thing, and I guess the other difference is it wasn't on a primetime game, but he does the same thing, and a lot of people are just kind of shrugging their shoulders. And is that because it's Aaron Donald and not another player that, Myles Garrett was already developing that dirty player reputation before the helmet swing. Then he did that. That was like cherry on top.
Right.
Aaron Donald doesn't really have a dirty player reputation, but he's done a lot of, maybe questionable things that you could bring up. And this one being the biggest one, I think, But if Falcons fans remember, the last time the Rams were in Atlanta, Aaron Donald had a fight with Devontae Freeman during the game and just like threw Devontae Freeman on the ground. And I believe it was Devontae Freeman who was ejected, not Aaron Donald, which was kind of odd to me at the time. But I guess Freeman was the one that tried to punch Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald just shoved him. So it was a penalty and not an ejection. But, I mean, there seems to be more smoke than people are willing to admit when it comes to Aaron Donald being a dirty player. And I just wonder what the conversation would be with this whole thing if it wasn't such a high-profile player that was accused of, or not accused. I mean, he's caught on video swinging the helmet.
Well, consider that, I don't know if it's the NFL or the Rams. They did try to take this video offline. They did try to get it taken down. They did succeed in some areas of getting it taken down. They were trying to make this disappear. And it turns out they couldn't make it disappear. It was already too far out there, already in too many places. So that is the one thing you can look at. Trying to make it disappear tells me that, yes, this does have a lot to do with Aaron Donald being who he is.
Yeah.
Being one of the featured players on the Rams, defensive line, being one of their stars, 3-time defensive player of the year. Yeah, it has a lot to do with that. And that's why it's going to be tough. That's why I don't know whether we're going to see anything out of the Rams on this or not. Because
why would they? They don't have to. Why would they if they? Why would they want to antagonize their best player?
That's exactly.
Why would they not want? They're not going to suspend him and not have him play.
Right.
He has 9.
Right. Exactly. You're exactly right. Why antagonize this guy? He's your star. He's the one who makes it all happen for you. And no, the Rams aren't going to do anything.
Of all teams, too. Like, maybe if this was the Patriots, maybe Belichick would be like, well, no player is bigger than the team.
Right.
That's the attitude that he's had. The Rams are the exact opposite. The Rams are completely built on their star power. And if you take away their stars, their depth isn't particularly the best in the league. So they're not going to take away their stars willingly. So that unfortunately, I don't see any punishment coming for Aaron Donald with this.
Yeah. I think they'll get together with Donald's agent, maybe see if they can pull off a fine, and hope that maybe they can get some things settled that way. And as long as they can get a fine out of it or some kind of punishment, any kind of punishment, that it will allow them to sweep this under the rug. So they will try. There's not going to be a suspension, but they will try to get some kind of nominal fine out of it, just to say, Aaron, you're not above the team, even though doing that shows you that he's above the team. And then they'll take that to the NFL and say, see, we did something about it. And they'll take it to the press and say, see, we did something about it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be what they're going to try and do.
We got about 10 minutes left in the show. I want to talk briefly about Tom Brady and then maybe get to some other quarterback battles here as we enter week 3 if there's time. I shared my thoughts on Tom Brady a lot last week.
Yep.
Tom, what was your reaction to him returning? And, I mean, he still didn't really practice a whole lot this week. Apparently he still took off. It was like I forget what they called it, veteran off day or something.
Yeah.
So he had another off day. We're going to see him in action tonight against Matt Ryan and the Colts, which actually, if it was a regular season game, this would be a pretty marquee matchup between those two quarterbacks. But it's still worth watching because we want to see what we get from Tom Brady tonight. What was your reaction to him returning? And what are you looking for him in his, probably brief, but in his one preseason appearance tonight?
This whole situation has really got me puzzled. First, the fact that, he retires after 40 days, comes back, then suddenly, Bruce Arians retires,
Yeah. Right.
The minute Brady gets back, Arians goes and hands the team to Todd Bowles and says, "Here, you deal with it." And then now you got Brady doing the 2-week out of touch. It's strange. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Even if it's Tom Brady, I don't know how this is good for your football team. And I know a lot of the players are saying the right things.
They are. Yeah, I think that's worth noting that a lot of players are just ready to move on. He's back. They don't want to worry about the past 2 weeks. That the reason why he was gone, whatever. The fact is he's returned, and I guess that's all well and good, but the question becomes: do you actually believe that they feel that way, and can they really move forward?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that question, actually, Dave, and I wish I had a good answer for you. I would say that this is going to go a little bit deeper. This cuts a little bit deeper than everybody is willing to admit up front. And as I say, they're saying the right things in public, but that there's got to be questions among these players in private. Yeah, he's Tom Brady, one of the greatest. Is he the greatest? I'm not willing to go there. Not while Peyton Manning is still there. But there's something here, and I think you might see more of this play out as the season progresses, especially if he gets off to a slow start. Remember, the guy's 45 years old. At some point, it does catch up with you. Your reflexes do, and your reflexes, even if you lose a split second off those reflexes, it's enough to allow a defense to catch up with you.
Yeah.
And I can't see how any of this has helped Brady get ready for a season. And also, you see all this speculation about whether it was the situation with the Dolphins that has Brady mad, which is surprising to me. And the fact that Brady wanted to be with Sean Payton in Miami.
Yeah.
And how much truth is there in that? There's a lot of speculation moving around the league in a number of different directions.
Yeah.
None of it that I think is a positive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think we're going to see that as the season gets going, that there might be more there might be more under the surface than what players are willing to show right now.
Absolutely. I think that is definitely true. Mentioned a lot of it last week, and even the possibility of him not returning. Obviously, he did return to our demise as Falcons followers. Tom Brady's back, and the NFC South is probably going to be won by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, despite all of this speculation and turmoil. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. The fact that they haven't been willing to honestly say why he's away, or
Right.
weren't 100% sure when he was coming back, and then it was kind of inconsistent with, was it scheduled, was it not scheduled ahead of time? All of that has opened up all of these questions and led to the media speculating all of these things for why it could be. It could simply be there was a death in the family. And I feel so badly if that was the case, because, Tom Brady, even him, even he is entitled to his privacy in that kind of situation.
Right.
But if that is the situation, maybe just say that there was a death in the family. Personal, the exact reason that he was away was personal reasons. So, that could be a wide range of reasons for why. It could be mental health. It could be a problem with his marriage. It could be a death in the family. It could be and it could be none of that. So the fact that we're left speculating in the media has been part of the problem for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, they've handled this terrible. I mean, it's been awful the way that they've handled it. They've allowed all of this speculation to go on by not addressing it directly and just, having and being honest about what's going on here. Yeah, it's a problem. So I'm going to be fascinated to see again. Nobody knows. That's the problem. Nobody knows. Even reporters, they don't know. Brady is good about keeping his private life to himself, and we're going to see how it plays out as the season starts. As I say, if he gets off to a slow start, some of this animosity that I believe is under the surface, boiling under the surface with the players, I think you might actually see start emerging. So, but I do think there's animosity here, and I do think there's a problem between Brady and the Buccaneers.
Today's show was brought to you by Prize Picks. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, download the app, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. Join today, and you'll be ready for week 1 of the NFL season coming up in less than 2 weeks, Thursday Night Football, between the Bills and Rams. Want to get to sorry, did I cut you off there, Tom?
No, you're fine.
Okay. I wanted to get to some quarterback battles here in the final couple minutes. We also have a question from, trying to find it here, from Todd. He's been patiently waiting for about 20 minutes for us to answer this question. He said, will Baker Mayfield lead Carolina to the playoffs? That is a good way to segue into the quarterback discussion. Mayfield kind of the last man standing in Carolina because they've had some injuries to Sam Darnold and their rookie there. So I think Mayfield was going to start anyway, but he's the de facto choice now because of the injuries. And I would say no. I would say strongly no. Not necessarily because of Mayfield, but I just don't have a belief in that coaching staff and the Panthers roster for them to make the postseason.
I would, agree with you 100%. The fact that they have Baker Mayfield is a positive. The fact that Matt Rule is still the head coach is not is a problem. It's a thin roster. It's a thin roster on offense. And, I mean, there's a lot Baker Mayfield will help achieve. But, you don't have a lot in the wide receiver room. You don't have a lot as in the running back. So, and Mayfield was named the starter before Darnold got injured. So he did win the job. I think he'll play well. I think he will set himself well for a good contract going into 2023. But no, I don't think the Carolina Panthers are still a very good team because I don't like the rest of the way that roster is put together and the coaching staff.
The Seattle Seahawks announced last night that Geno Smith has won the quarterback battle in Seattle over Drew Lock. I mean, can you give me a 30-second summary over the quarterback mess in Seattle and your reaction to Geno Smith being their starter?
The best of a bad situation. Pete Carroll's talking up Geno Smith like, hey, I know he knows the system. He's been here for a couple of years. Problem is every time he's gone out on the field to play quarterback, he hasn't been very good. So they have nothing. You got nothing.
And that's a roster too that I think they get by on their brand. In the media, but that defense is not very good anymore.
No.
So they have to put up points to win, and they're not going to put up points with Geno Smith. I mean, Carolina at least has a decent quarterback, I think, in Mayfield. Seattle has a bad roster and a bad quarterback. So those two teams might be battling for the worst team in the NFC.
Might. Mayfield, a good quarterback will at least lift you some. Will lift that boat a little bit, and take you places where would have been impossible before. A decent quarterback will. Bad quarterback will take you nowhere. You'll sink with him. He make the players around him better. And Geno Smith can't make the players around him better. Neither can Drew Lock.
Right.
So don't think that Drew Lock is any kind of answer either.
No,
they have nothing up there.
Yeah, I think it's kind of amazing and somewhat trying to think of the right word, criminal maybe, that they are going into the season with those two quarterbacks. Like, I don't know why they think they're going to be competitive with Geno Smith and Drew Lock as their quarterbacks. That they I know it wasn't a great quarterback class. I get that in the draft, but you didn't show at all that you thought that you could improve the position by drafting Malik Willis in a later round or Desmond Ridder in a later round, in the second round or early third round. You really thought Geno Smith and Drew Lock were going to make it competitive? I think that's going to come back and really bite them.
So do I. And you're right. They had the opportunities. They could have brought in a young guy to do it, to compete. But it's, they're going out there with a.
Oh boy, Thomas, I think he's frozen again. Tom, you there?
And damn it, I lost it again. My network gets.
You're back though.
Yeah. So, but it's going to be a tough season for Seattle fans.
Yeah. I want to get to one more quarterback situation. Pittsburgh Steelers. Your boy, Mitch Trubisky, looks like he is going to win the quarterback battle over Kenny Pickett. Although I do think that today or tomorrow's game that the Steelers play could have an impact in who is going to start. This is a great example also of like the media maybe completely overreacting because the first week of training camp, Kenny Pickett was a draft bust. We didn't even want to see him take a snap in preseason before we said that he was awful, shouldn't have been a first-round pick, Now he should be the starter a month later. It's probably somewhere in the middle, and Mike Tomlin I think knows that. And Mitch Trubisky's I think going to be the starter, and Kenny Pickett will be starting probably by Halloween there. But people in the media are making this out still as a training camp battle between Trubisky and Pickett, and maybe tomorrow's game will have an impact there and who starts week 1.
Well, for one thing, Trubisky is not my guy. All right.
I said that next week. I kind of knew that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing all the write-ups I've been seeing about Kenny Pickett that, he's won the number one quarterback job. He is the number one quarterback. I saw Bucky Brooks on NFL.com. He's saying that
I saw that.
Pickett should be the starting quarterback. But again, Mike Tomlin's been head coach for 16, 17 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mike Tomlin knows what he wants to do at quarterback. I think he's a smart football man, and I think he'll make the right decision. It may not be the best decision right now, as I think if he starts Trubisky, it's going to be a rough start to the season for Pittsburgh. I still don't think Trubisky can read defenses. If a defense lined up across from him in large print, I don't think Trubisky can read it. So I would say Pickett is going to be the starter, but I think Tomlin is going to step forward and Trubisky was brought in with the thought that he would start the season as the starting quarterback. I think he's going to continue that narrative, and I'm with you. I think by middle of October, we're going to see Pickett as the starter, and he won't have any argument about it then.
I think the Steelers are going to be middle of the road team through October, Halloween, 3-4, 4-3, winning some games they probably shouldn't win, and not winning those games because of Mitch Trubisky. And then at that point, the quarterback change is made.
Yes.
And then it'll be Kenny Pickett the rest of the way, and Kenny Pickett for, the Steelers are hoping for a long time.
Yeah. If Kenny Pickett starts as the opening day quarterback and struggles, then you're going to start hearing the narrative, oh, Kenny Pickett's, he's not that good. He's not as good as we thought he'd be. It was just a preseason. Let him sit on the sidelines. Let's watch Trubisky struggle. Because I can't see Mitch Trubisky doing anything but struggle. And then Pickett comes in and people are more sold on, staying behind the kid and being and supporting him as a starting quarterback.
I think Trubisky's going to do better than he probably did in Chicago. I'll say that.
You do?
I think so. He has a 5-touchdown game. He's shown flashes of being a pretty good quarterback. The problem is that he's very up and down, very inconsistent, and I think that's how his first 5-6 weeks of the season will go, and then they'll go to Pickett.
We'll see. Trubisky is not good when the pressure starts.
Yeah, but there's not going to be a lot of pressure in September.
Steelers fans, they want to see this team win no matter what.
Yeah, that's true.
They got a coach who's never had a losing season, and they can't stand that coach.
Yeah, but that's true. But everyone's predicting the Steelers to finish in last place. There's not a lot of expectations around the Steelers this year.
Okay.
I think they're going to exceed those lower expectations.
Yeah, I think they will too, just because they got one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, and that would be my reason too.
So,
we got to wrap up the show, and I know that if I say this last thing, this might open up your floodgates for like 10 minutes, and I'm tempted not to do that, but I'm going to do it. The Steelers have a much better offense than Chicago ever gave Mitch Trubisky. They have much better receivers. They have Najee Harris. The problem is the offensive line, but Mitch Trubisky is a running quarterback, and I think they're going to utilize that. Did Chicago ever really, really utilize his running ability?
Yes, they did. There were a couple of years ago, the final about the first through November, the first few games of December, the offensive coordinator actually started calling plays in place of Matt Nagy, and he started rolling Mitch Trubisky out. What we found out is Mitch Trubisky, as a rollout passer, can read better because you're only giving him half the field to read, and makes better decisions.
Yeah.
So if you roll him out, the problem is Matt Nagy got maybe jealous that, all of a sudden, he wasn't getting the credit for the offense that he should have gotten. Went back, started calling plays again, and it started, you started seeing the old Mitch where he wasn't rolling out. He wasn't getting a chance to look at the field, look at half the field, having to read the entire field again. Yeah, if you give Mitch Trubisky half a field to read and to react to and react in, you might see a better quarterback. So we'll see how the Steelers use him.
I think you're making my point that, despite winning Coach of the Year, Matt Nagy refused to put Mitch Trubisky in a situation that was best for him. The question is, will the Steelers do that? We're praising Mike Tomlin, but he's not going to be calling the plays. He's a defensive-minded coach. He can decide who's the quarterback, but it's ultimately going to be Matt Canada and his system. How does Mitch fit in there and behind that offensive line? I think he's going to be running a lot just because the offensive line is not going to be blocking all that well, to be honest. But I'm not sold on Matt Canada as a offensive play caller or coordinator, but I am interested in seeing him with a running quarterback because I think that's what Canada wants to do, and absolutely could do none of that last year with Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh no, God, no way. The thing is, with Matt Nagy, it's Matt Nagy's system. It's my system.
Yes.
And it wasn't, let's see what we could do to make Trubisky look better. It's, he better be able to fit in my system. This is my system. That was the problem.
Yeah, huge problem. Huge problem that I'm hoping the Steelers don't have that issue. But we'll see. We'll see. Todd had a really funny comment. He says that I have a fat head of Mitch Trubisky on my wall, which I do not. I want to just clarify, I do not. I have one fat head in our house. It is in the garage, and it is of Jack Lambert. So no Ben Roethlisberger, no Terry Bradshaw, no offensive players.
I see Shannon has drawn the line on fat heads on the wall.
Right. I got this fat head years ago from someone in high school gave it to me, and I was saving it for the perfect place. Finally got a house here in Marietta, Georgia, and I was like, oh, I'm going to put up my Jack Lambert fat head, and it's hanging up in the garage right in front of my truck.
Yep.
And I would get more, but they're like $100. It's just ridiculous.
Yes, they are.
I got that one for free. That's why I have that one. I was thinking about buying. My wife is a Broncos fan, and she loved Peyton Manning. So I was thinking about getting Peyton Manning one and have like Jack Lambert tackling Peyton Manning in the garage.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. But I'm not really looking to spend $100 for Peyton Manning fat head.
I'm with you on that one. Good choice.
So I do have a fat head, but it's not Mitch Trubisky top.
Okay. Good.
But thank you everybody for all your comments, participation on the show. It's really great. We got to as many comments and questions as possible. And enjoy the Falcons game this afternoon. We'll be back next Saturday at noon Eastern time.
Yep. Everyone have a great week.